The ancient Egypt Pharaoh civilization. Egypt is situated in northeastern Africa, and Egypt still exists as a country in modern day and is very much a modern civilization these days. However, ancient Egypt was one of the most powerful and longest-lasting civilizations in history. It began around 5,000 years ago and lasted over 3,000 years. The origins of ancient Egypt began under Pharaoh Nama, who was also known as the Scorpion King. The people of ancient Egypt lived along the river Nile, which was the lifeblood of their civilization. They built amazing structures like pyramids and temples, and they continued to be ruled by powerful kings and queens known as pharaohs throughout the existence of the ancient Egyptian civilization. Let's look at the importance of the river Nile. The river Nile was incredibly important to the ancient Egyptians. It is the largest river in Africa and amazingly flows through the desert, bringing life to the land of Egypt. The ancient Egyptians relied on the river Nile for everything. The Nile provided fresh water for drinking and farming. The Nile provided food since the river was full of fish, and the fertile land along its banks was perfect for growing crops like wheat and barley. And the Nile provided the means for transportation. The river Nile was like a highway for the ancient Egyptians. They used boats to travel up and down the river, which made trading goods with other regions so much easier. Each year, the Nile would flood its banks, leaving behind rich soil that was perfect for farming. The ancient Egyptians learned to predict these floods and plan their farming around them. This regular flooding allowed them to grow enough food to support a large population and build a strong civilization. The ancient Egyptians' religion and beliefs. The ancient Egyptians believed in many gods and goddesses, each with different powers. Most of the gods were believed to have animal heads with human bodies. The following are names and descriptions of some of the more well-known gods and goddesses of ancient Egypt. There was Ra, with the head of a falcon. He was the god of the sun and creation and the ruler of all gods. Horus also had the head of a falcon, and he was the god of the sky, protector of pharaohs, and the symbol of kingship. Anubis had the head of a jackal. He was the god of mummification and the afterlife, and the protector of the dead. Thoth was said to have limitless intelligence. He had the head of an ibis bird, but he was sometimes depicted as a baboon holding up a crescent moon. He was the god of the moon, the god of intelligence, language, equilibrium, wisdom, and magic, and he was also the patron of scribes. There was the goddess Sekhmet, with the head of a lioness. She was the goddess of war, destruction, and healing. Sobek had the head of a crocodile, and he was the god of the Nile River, fertility, and military prowess. Hathor had the head of a cow. She was sometimes shown as a woman with cow horns. She was the goddess of love, beauty, music, joy, and motherhood. Bastet had the head of a cat. She was the goddess of home, fertility, childbirth, and protection. Life in ancient Egypt. The ancient Egyptians were very organized, and their society had different classes of people with specific roles. 1. There were the pharaohs. The pharaohs were the kings and rulers of ancient Egypt. Each pharaoh was considered a god on earth. They had complete control over the land and the people, who were responsible for making laws, leading the army, and keeping the gods happy. Famous pharaohs include Tutankhamun, also called King Tut, and Cleopatra, amongst others. The ancient Egyptians believed that life continued after death. They thought that the afterlife was a perfect version of Egypt, so they wanted to be buried with items they believed they would need to take into their next life. These items included food, clothing, jewelry, gems, furniture, games, and so on. The rich and powerful were buried in elaborate tombs, with pharaohs buried in grand pyramids with tunnels and chambers and secret passages containing whatever they believed they needed for their comfort and continued wealth and power in the afterlife. Mummies in ancient Egypt. Mummies are preserved bodies of the dead. The ancient Egyptians believed that in order for a person to live forever in the afterlife, their body needed to be preserved. This process of preservation is called mummification. Mummies are perhaps one of the most famous symbols of ancient Egypt. So why did the Egyptians make mummies? The Egyptians believed in life after death, which they called the afterlife. They believed that when a person died, their spirit would need to use their body again in the afterlife. To make sure the body didn't decay and remained in the same condition as it was when it was buried, they developed the process of mummification. By turning the body into a mummy, they believed the person's spirit could live forever. Mummies were buried in a sarcophagus, which is a large, luxurious stone coffin decorated with beautiful carvings, paintings, and inscriptions in hieroglyphics. Hieroglyphics was the mysterious ancient Egyptian writings, and their meanings remained a mystery for thousands of years. But modern archaeologists have been working to translate these writings, so now we can understand some of what is written in hieroglyphics. In conclusion, the ancient Egyptian civilization was one of the most advanced and fascinating civilizations in history. Their achievements in architecture, art, and government have left a lasting legacy that still amazes people today. By understanding their way of life, we can appreciate how they built such a remarkable civilization along the River Nile.